I'm James Wilson.
And I'm Matthew Rowney.
And on Saturday we tuned in to watch Listen, an episode that was so very, very hyped, all because Steven Moffat was going back to his usual scary episodes.
Yes, but was the hype worth it? Was it as good as we all thought? Let's find out as we review Listen.
Well then, Listen. How did you watch Listen on the Saturday night, Matthew?
With the lady.
Yes, with your
It was
lady.
a bit too scary for her though. She kept having to look away. She's not good with scary stuff.
Yes.
So it was a difficult one for her to watch.
Yeah. I watched it with my nephew. Usually I watch it with my girlfriend, but she was away for the Saturday, so we shoved our weekend up along a bit, which is kind of why this review is so late. Sorry about that. Blame my girlfriend. But I watched it with my nephew, and he was quite scared as well, hiding under my Doctor Who scarf, but he was quite excited. He brought sweets round to watch Doctor Who with me. He brought round minstrels and mint arrows.
Yeah,
and
I bet you ate all of them.
Yes, I certainly did. He cried. Making children cry, that's me. But no, the one thing that this didn't do was, I think, make children cry, which is what Doctor Who's are good for, really, especially Moffat stories. Remember Moffat in his prime, which is what we thought he was going to return to in this story. We thought he was going to return to the Blink days, you know, where Blink, where he made episode 11 look brilliant. Episode 11 is usually that part in a series. 10 or 11. 10 or 11 episode is usually those filler episodes where, you know, where it's just before the finale, so you don't really care about that as much. But remember those days, Matthew? Remember them where he was working under Russell and we actually liked his episodes?
I don't know if the hype is what killed this, because the hype to this was absolutely huge. I mean, I had this as my looked forward episode to in the series so far. Other than Deep Breath, of course, that was a new Doctor. After Deep Breath, now that's out the way. Looking at the other 11 episodes, this was the one, alongside The Caretaker, I might say. But I don't know if it's because I was looking forward to it so much, why I'm a bit underwhelmed or not. If I'd have went into this with a bit more of an open mind, like it could be bad, I don't care. Of course, I was ready for it to be bad. It's Moffat, but you know, I was.
You've got to be prepared, especially next week.
Exactly. Well, yeah, it is Stephen Thompson. We'll get to that on Friday. But yeah, I don't know if the hype is what killed this or not. But yeah, I was a little bit disappointed.
It was quite disappointing, which we'll get to our disappointments. Now, the intro, I did believe at first was quite out of the blue. The Doctor is suddenly getting into this conversation with himself. He's suddenly talking to himself.
I loved it though.
I did. It was a really enjoyable intro.
He seemed like the mad old scientist.
He did. I mean, it really was brilliant. There was books all over the stairs. There was candles everywhere. You know, he looked more rugged than he has been in past weeks.
You can tell he was bored.
Yes, he can tell he was quite bored. Clara wasn't there, so you could tell that this is what he's been doing in his spare time. You know, when you're alone, you start thinking too much.
Yeah.
You know, you start to think to yourself, oh, what would happen if I looked at that wall for too long? Will it start to play about with my vision? What if there's a monster somewhere that plays about with your vision or something? You know, it's these weird things that everyone starts to think about when they've been alone for too long. You know, so I think that this is definitely what the 12th Doctor's gotten like. He's gotten so bored that he started to think of a theory.
I mean, the Doctor's been alone so much in his life. I'm surprised he's not thought of this theory earlier.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, he's been alone for so long, but then later on, in a brilliant barn scene, we know why he thought of that in the first place.
Yeah, we'll talk about the scene with Clara and Danny. I mean, after the awful fade into the title sequence, I don't know why they did that again.
Yeah, but it was weird, but can I just talk about that? Last week, it was so much better. It ended with Robin Hood winking at the camera, and then, it just went boom, straight into the title sequence. But why it had to do an Into the Dalek and fade into it, I have absolutely no idea. But anyway, Yes, but
Clara and
Danny
Danny.
slash Rupert.
Yeah, Danny slash Rupert slash or yeah, him and Clara, yeah, whoever he is, and we'll talk about that as well. His relationship with Clara is a bit like a roller coaster. It's up, it's down, and I kind of like that. I like how awkward it is.
I
It's
do.
entertaining.
I like how you never really know how their relationship's going to turn out. You can never really tell if they're going to be together for much longer or they're not, because you know that they've got a very tender relationship. You never know which one's going to put their foot in their mouths. Both of them kind of like have this relationship with each other where they are kind of. I mean, the 11th Doctor was kind of that guy who just put his foot in his mouth and constantly insult her. But that's what the 12th Doctor kind of does in a way. Insults Clara, but more on purpose than the 11th would. The 11th Doctor would be like, "Oh, you look nice. Maybe a bit more makeup, but not too much makeup." But then the 12th Doctor's like, "Oh, it's too late now. You've wiped off all your makeup." You know, so that's the sort of relationship that the 12th Doctor and Clara have. But with Danny, it's much more awkward. Really, it's you never know where it's going to go. It's great.
Yeah, I love it, and I like the way that him talking about him being a soldier, which we'll get to as well. Yeah, I like the way that would just kick off a sudden argument. Danny seems like he's a very on-edge person, and I think it's going to be an interesting relationship. So, Clara using the TARDIS
psychic ability thing,
which has never been used before.
Yeah, that TARDIS console thing has never been used before. That in itself is a nitpick, which I'm glad that they finally used that. I'm glad that there are actually panels on the TARDIS that can actually be explored.
Yeah.
You know, I'm glad that there are actually things in the TARDIS that can be more. You know, the Doctor seems to be a bit more hands-on. Where I mean, the Doctor, all he's basically used to control the TARDIS is a handle. Just wham, just pull that down. Boom, there you go. I'm the Doctor. You know, I've just pulled down, just controlled an entire time machine just using a handle, bitch. So you know, but I'm glad that there are finally things on the TARDIS console that are actually getting used and are actually able to be used.
Yeah, I liked Clara using that to send them to Danny's childhood, although I would have rather have saw Clara's. I was expecting to see Clara's childhood when they got to the orphanage home. I was expecting, we're going to see a bit of Clara's childhood. This is what her character's
when Danny rang and you started to see her thinking about Danny, there must have been a part of you that thought, right, they're going to end up in Danny's.
Yeah, there was a part of me, but I was also looking forward to seeing a bit more of Clara's childhood.
And you were right in the preview. Danny's that young boy was Danny.
Yeah.
So
as much as I like them going, I like obviously the idea of using the TARDIS as psychic link and just getting a phone call off Danny just while she was doing it. Sent them that works. That's fine.
Yeah.
But I would have liked to have seen a bit of Clara's childhood as well.
Yeah.
And I've got a problem because with Danny, I was looking forward to him being a down to earth character.
Yeah.
And Moffat just making normal people, like you did in Russell's era. He can just make normal people and they have a normal life. And I was looking forward to Danny just being that normal person.
Yeah.
But before we've even fully been introduced to the guy, he's already a plot point.
Yeah.
And I was not a fan of that.
No,
really.
Not at all. I mean, I hate to refer to another Whovian critic because it makes me feel like I'm possibly copying off him, which we're not. Mr. TARDIS Reviews has also spoken about his views on this episode and dislikes it more than we do, let's just say this. But Mr. TARDIS has made some quite good points about the episode, and this has been one of them. Why couldn't Danny have just decided he was a soldier, and why couldn't he have just decided to call himself Danny all on his own? You know, why couldn't he have just decided all this on his own without the Doctor and Clara's influence?
Like Amy and Rory and River.
Exactly. Why does the Doctor have to influence all of his companions? Seriously. I mean, how would we feel right now if I mean it does feel like it happens again in the barn scene, which again we'll get to, but what if we saw the Doctor going back to, I don't know, Sarah Jane Smith's timeline and influencing her to be a journalist? You know, I mean, why? I mean, honestly, that would have pissed me off.
Yeah,
that would have pissed me off. It would have been like insulting the brilliant memory of Sarah Jane. You know, that's just like a quick example. You know, if the Doctor just suddenly goes back to one of his companions' lives and influences that to create his own future. It's been done before, and maybe it was cool a couple of years ago, Moffat, when you did it before, but now we're just looking forward to a character who just evolves like a human being.
Yeah, and I would have at least liked to have met him properly first.
Exactly.
And meeting him properly, no, we didn't meet him properly in the Dalek. We had like a few minutes of screen time with him.
The first 10 minutes, maybe,
and
which slowed down that episode a bit.
What we learned about him being a soldier, I was really looking forward to.
Yeah.
I was looking forward to seeing what scarred him as a child, what made him a soldier.
Yeah.
Why is he crying in class? Turns out it was just the Doctor influencing his life, and I thought that was a bit underwhelming.
I think it would have been good if, I don't know, maybe that sent, maybe it's not to Danny's childhood, but maybe, I know that it had to go to Danny's childhood for it to sort of come into key with the whole thing under your bed thing, the theory that the Doctor had. I know that was meant to play into it a little bit, but the Doctor did say at any point in the Doctor's life, in that flashback that the Doctor was having, there was an old woman getting out of her bed. Yeah. So at any point in his life, so that could have possibly been Danny as a soldier in Afghanistan or Iraq or wherever he was, that dream happening to him there. So, you know, maybe that could have happened, just to see Danny in the trenches. Or do you think maybe the BBC would kind of be a bit on the fence about, you know, showing soldiers dying in Afghanistan? Do you think that would have maybe been...
Well, they cut a beheading scene, so maybe, I don't know. But yeah, I agree with you there. It was seeing his childhood, I think, was a bit too quick for his character. And like a few things in Series 8, they seem to be a bit misplaced. But we'll get away from that. Let's talk about the concept. You like the concept of this story.
Yeah, I did.
There were a few scenes that were actually very creepy.
Yeah, there were. The scene with the scene where the Doctor, Clara, and young Rupert are all faced up against the window, and the creature just takes off the red sheet. Really, it really did send shivers down my spine, because the camera was so out of focus you didn't even know. You know what it looked like? It looked like a face, but bigger. It looked like it had eyes and I could see eyebrows, but it didn't look like anything at the same time. It was sort of like, I don't know how to have possibly described this creature, but that's the thing. The creature, we don't even know where it came from. But I thought this episode was creepy. I thought it did have creepy elements to it, and it definitely did make me scared. To up the scare factor while watching it with my nephew, I did switch off all the lights in the house.
It's probably, I'll actually go as far as to say it's probably the creepiest episode since Blink. Yeah, I'll give Moffat that.
Yeah, it is. It did have a lot of scare factor. If I were to give the scare factor of this episode a bit more of its own separate rating, I would give it at least a 9 out of 10.
Yeah,
honestly, it
was as scary creepy as Blink, but there were moments where I was like, "Wow, oh my God!"
No. But then again, if we were watching Blink now, it wouldn't scare us in the slightest.
Of course not.
You know, but I was like a 10, 11 at the time, so. You know.
Let's just go straight in and talk about this monster.
Yeah.
Now, this is the biggest problem with
this. We say monster with explanation marks.
Yeah, because the thing is, was it a monster? Was it in the Doctor's imagination? Was it not? Was it in all their imaginations?
Yeah.
Was it real? Where did it go?
Exactly.
It poses
it poses more questions than anything else.
Did this episode even have a monster?
I don't know. I don't know. Honestly, we don't even know if this was even a villain that was even worth. I mean, I get it. I get the concept. I understood it. You know, guys. We all understand the concept of this episode, don't we? I mean, we all get that moment when we're at any point in our life. Even now, when I wake up in the middle of the night, I feel. Like the Doctor says, I feel the house breathe. Yeah. I feel it creak and crack, and I can feel... And the fact that my room's a loft doesn't help. The insulation isn't really helping. I can hear the wind and the trees crackling and everything like that. All those noises that make you paranoid and make you think, oh my God, is that a monster at the window? Oh my God, is someone coming up the stairs? You know, you feel things creak. It's your paranoia. It's your mind playing tricks on you. And I get the concept as well, and Moffat grasped it almost good, but it's just the closure. It needed closure. It needed resolution.
Yeah, the monster, like I said, at the end of the episode, when Clara said, "Is this big bad Time Lord just afraid of the dark?"
Yeah,
that just gives us the assumption that it was all in the Doctor's head. Yeah, that he was seeing it. It was all in his head, his theory. So if it was in the Doctor's head, how could Clara and Orson, which we'll get to, and Rupert also see the same kid? Surely, if it was just in the Doctor's head.
Well, Orson didn't see the kid.
No, but back in the hostel, the orphanage, surely if it was just in the Doctor's head, Clara and Rupert wouldn't have seen it.
Yeah.
So if this is a thing that affects all children all around the world at different ages, how did the ending seem like it was just in the Doctor's head?
Yeah.
That's what I don't get. We don't get to see where the monster went. We don't even get to know if it was actually real.
Yeah.
And that's what annoyed me, because it was a creepy what made this episode creepy was the monster.
Exactly.
And the concept, and the fact that we don't even know if it was actually there. When we were reviewing this, I compared it to like this. You watch a movie that you really like and it really scares you, and then at the end you just find out that it was just the main character's dream.
Yeah.
At the end of the movie, they wake up and the entire movie was a dream.
It's
that
like,
would piss you off.
It's like the Human Centipede Part 2, really.
Wow,
I mean,
that's
honestly,
a comparison.
yeah, I mean, honestly, no. It's true though. I mean, all this gruesome stuff starts happening, and it turns out to all be in that sick bastard's head.
It's pretty similar though.
It is. I mean, it's the classic writer's way out. I mean, which I didn't think
It was all a dream.
yeah, it was all a dream. It was all a dream.
It's not
dynamic.
exactly like that, but it kind of is.
It kind of was like that, but like Matthew said,
it was all in his head.
Yeah, it was all in his head type of thing. It didn't work for this type of episode. And yes, like I said, the concept was grasped well, but Moffat just didn't end it that well.
Yeah,
and he's never been good with endings.
No, he really isn't. He's bitten off more than he can chew. Again, another episode that could have been a two-parter.
Yeah. So your views on Orson Pink?
He was.
Yeah, we all guessed it. We guessed it in our preview that this guy was an ascendant of Danny Pink, and the Doctor had kind of tracked back Clara's timeline and found Orson at the end of the universe.
Cliche.
And which Utopia did so much better. I mean, honestly, if the Master had just walked in, there's that episode 10 times better. Maybe not as justified as Utopia was, but But there's also another thing. You could compare this episode to quite a lot of other episodes. But no, I do think that Orson was good in the fact that it kind of clarified to the audience that Clara and Danny do have a future together.
That's the only point I thought he had, really.
Yeah.
He was basically Danny with an afro.
Yeah.
I mean, he acted like Danny. He was exactly the same as Danny. There was hardly any difference whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yes, he's a descendant. Yeah, he's like his great-great-grandchild or whatever. Yeah, there are similarities. I'm probably like my great-great-grandfather. You might be. But, he seemed too stale to me.
Yeah.
And it seemed like the only reason he was there is to just justify to the audience, we've gone into their past.
Yeah.
We've gone into their future. It's Clara's great-great-grandchild. And foreshadowing that Clara's going to have kids with Danny, do you think that's a bit early?
Yeah, I do think so. I mean, it could scare Clara off in a way. It's just like...
Is he foreshadowing Clara's end already?
I honestly don't know. I mean, is it making it clearer and clearer that Clara is not coming back? I mean, we've seen when did filming for the Christmas special start? We know
last week.
Yeah, last week. We know Capaldi's coming back, and there were even rumours that Nick Frost is featuring in it. But
as
anyway,
Santa Claus.
As Santa Claus, but that is in another episode. That is in another video entirely, probably, maybe. But no, I do think that Orson was not as justified, and yes, maybe it might be depicting Clara's demise a little bit, which I didn't want.
No, I didn't want it. I think it's a bit too early, and again, it's something that I think is timed a bit wrong. I think it's something that's out of place once again. So yeah, Orson, I didn't really see the point of him apart from foreshadowing Clara's future. Yeah, really. But
exactly.
I want to go back
to
I want to go back to a point you were saying that it seemed like a lot of bits of old episodes were recycled in this.
Yeah, it did seem a lot like that. I mean, the whole concept of what's under your bed was done well, in fact better in Girl in the Fireplace. Though there are loads of essences of certain episodes in there, like Midnight, the knocking on the door.
It was a creepy scene.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, it was a creepy scene, that knocking scene, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was very creepy, but it definitely did. There was a lot of recycled moments there were just too many moments where I just
automatically thought Midnight.
Yeah, I mean, there are just too many moments in this episode where I just thought, that reminds me of, this reminds me of, and that reminds me of, and so on and so on.
The fact we never saw the actual form of the monster makes it seem so much like Midnight.
It does. It does.
Really does.
I mean, honestly, we never actually get to see what this creature looks like or anything of that sort, and it just rings so much into Midnight and the Girl in the Fireplace,
Blink.
What's Underneath Your Bed, Blink, all these things that Moffat has used before. I mean, we all know that Moffat uses, well, used to use children's fears quite well. You know, like things that wouldn't usually scare you. Before 2007, would an angel statue have worried us? No, it wouldn't have. We would have just went, oh, that's a lovely angel statue. But no, now we're like, holy shit, get away from me, don't blink, go away, go away, go away. You know, that we'd be scared of, and gas mask children, and so on and so on. But for some bizarre reason, Moffat can't do this anymore. For some bizarre reason, he's proven to me in this episode that Moffat can't write what he used to now.
He can't write characters normally. He can't write a story without it being all wibbly wobbly. I mean, I know Blink was very wibbly wobbly, but it made perfect sense, and at least he closed that story off.
Yes,
this story seems wide open. I don't even think it was finished.
No,
and it was concluded with the barn scene, which do you want to talk about now?
Let me just say this. In Moffat's defence, can't believe I'm defending that Scottish prick, but maybe Moffat's thought of the episode was to actually keep it open. He didn't make that plain enough, and he didn't. Yes, I do still agree that this monster needed closure, but maybe his thought was to make the audience think, what if this is a monster that will never be gone? What if this is a monster that is actually always there? You know, what if it's a monster that, maybe it's a necessary evil? Maybe Moffat meant to think of it as, this monster is a sort of necessary evil, it's something that will always be there, and
it's better just not being seen at all.
Yeah, exactly, and maybe I don't know. I mean, I do agree still that it needed closure in a better way, but I do sort of see where Moffat's coming from with it.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Like, some enemies like this, you just cannot ever see.
Yeah.
Like, it's all about, this story's based about it being in your dreams.
Yeah.
So maybe that is all it is. It's a dream. Maybe it isn't. Maybe that question's meant to be left open. Yeah. So you could look at it from two different perspectives. So that's a good theory, actually.
Yeah.
But the barn scene, do you want to...
Yes, of course, the barn scene. Well, Clara had plugged her hands back into the psychic mainframe of the TARDIS, and I never in a million years thought that this would be the Doctor.
No, I thought it was Danny.
Yeah, I genuinely thought it was Danny, or maybe Clara, because Clara did say to Orson, really, you don't want to meet yourself, it's really embarrassing. And I genuinely thought that was Clara that she was going to meet. Maybe there was some point in her life where she went to a barn, I don't know. But when she crawled underneath that boy's bed, and that man had said, and then when that guy said army, I genuinely did think it was Danny. Yeah. There was, of course, that point where I thought, right, it's definitely Danny. But then I thought, the costume seemed a bit old-time, don't you think?
And it seemed... she said Danny, Rupert, Orson, and there was no answer.
Yeah, exactly. So you know, and then that man came out with the words that I never thought I'd hear. He'll never make a Time Lord.
Wow.
And
I just was like, what?
I know, I was like, oh my god. I was reacting like every other Whovian on the entire planet was. Honestly, such a nostalgic moment, and it was such a big point in Doctor Who history right there. It justified how the Doctor came to that barn in the Day of the Doctor. Which I don't really think needed to be justified.
It's nice to have been closed.
Yeah, I know, but come on. I mean,
seeing John Hurt just made me go, oh!
I mean, the Doctor's just pinched something and is probably on the chase from the Time Lords.
I mean, the barn was random, though, in the Day of the Doctor.
I know.
It's something that people never really noticed.
I know, but
there will be eagle-eyed people who were like, no, I want to know where this barn came from.
No, but I always just thought that it was, the Doctor was kind of pressed for time. Gallifrey was going to blow up and be destroyed at any minute. So, you know, he needed somewhere to, for you know, just a building, just any normal building.
So was it Gallifrey?
I think it was. I mean, where else would it have possibly been? Where else would it have possibly been?
I know, but Gallifrey didn't seem, that barn in the Day of the Doctor didn't seem like it was, like there was war going on. It was beautiful skies, calm, beautiful deserts. I'm sure in the midst of a time war, all of Gallifrey would be on fire.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling it wasn't the same planet. I mean, yeah, the Doctor could have been born on Gallifrey, but, you know, it seems as if maybe he was sent to an orphanage that could have been on a different planet. Gallifrey had moons. Gallifrey's had different planets around it, so who knows? But anyway,
it was an absolutely brilliant piece of Doctor Who history, and it really did add to the 50 years of Doctor Who. It really did. But
here's what ruined it.
Yeah, here is what ruined it. I did think it was lovely though that we didn't see the Doctor's actual face.
That was good.
You know, and screw you, Matt Smith, not the youngest man to play the Doctor now, are you? No, a 10-year-old.
I envy that kid so much.
I really do. He got to play the freaking Doctor. But then again, no one will know who that kid is. I don't think he's actually credited. I'll have to look that up on Google. Thank you, Google. But no, here's what actually ruined it. It added to the character of the Doctor, but it was kind of overkill for Clara's character.
Yeah.
Now Clara, as we've all, some of you are probably thinking, you wanted more character development for Clara, and now this is overkill for Clara's character development. Make up your mind. But there is such thing as overkill. When I wanted character development, I meant things like, let's see her family again. Let's see, things like, let's see her teaching ethics. Let's see how she teaches. Let's see her family, her, those little, that's the sort of character development I meant. Things that make her human. But all I saw, and this kind of ruined it, it kind of added onto the shoulders of her character, and now Jenna Coleman really has to carry this around with her. And I don't understand why Moffat feels the need to do this.
Yeah, I liked her, the speech that she gave. I like the fact that she influenced his theory to why he thinks that there's something with you all the time.
Yeah.
That worked brilliantly.
Yeah, grabbing his leg, that really did sort of that make me think, oh my God, Clara was the reason for the Doctor's dream. She's the reason for why he has that theory in the beginning. So that justified that. But why Moffat felt the need for Clara to influence his entire reason for becoming the Doctor.
Yeah, that was what ruined it. Like that, because the speech was brilliant. Don't get me wrong. Jenna's acting was fabulous, and the speech was well written.
Yeah.
And when Clara was saying, this is going to influence your dream. This is one day you'll come back to this barn. It all made sense. It was beautiful. But then she said the line, fear doesn't have to make you cruel or cowardly.
Yeah.
And that moment just made me think, that's it. It's done. It's killed. That's overkill. Because Clara is already the impossible girl. She's already been there for every single one of his victories. She has basically been there to make every single defeat a victory now from the Great Intelligence. So she's already been there for his entire life.
Yeah.
She's not only done that now,
she's also influenced the Doctor finding the TARDIS.
And she's also influenced him finding the TARDIS, and she's now also influenced his promise, which is what he got the name of the Doctor from.
Yeah.
So Clara has now pretty much cemented as the most, I'm not saying she is the best, but in the show's narrative, she is the most important companion ever.
Yeah.
She basically is the reason for most of the Doctor's life, and that is too much.
Yeah.
How can any companion follow on from that?
She's basically responsible for the entire of these 51 years.
I just can't see a companion following her without being compared to her now.
Exactly. I think Moffat's trying too hard to make a better companion than Amy. I think because obviously, as we all thought from the time of the Doctor, it made Clara redundant. It did make the time of the Doctor made Clara seem very unimportant. But this was just complete and total overkill for Clara's character development. I didn't understand it. I didn't know why it had to happen. It was unneeded.
The speech was brilliant up until that line.
Yeah.
And although it was a nostalgia fest, it was just a bit too much for me.
It was.
Anything else you want to talk about before we conclude?
Well, nothing really. All I can really say is that the only downfall with the barn scene was that but also, can I just quickly talk about the beautiful scene about fear, the beautiful speech about fear that the Doctor told to Rupert, that fear makes you stronger, makes you fight harder, makes you jump higher than you ever could before in your life. And, I think that that was a lovely speech that I think the Doctor could have gotten to do on his own and not be influenced by Clara. That's pretty much
even that was influenced.
That's pretty much all I can pretty much say on the matter. Now, on to your conclusion, Matthew.
Fair enough. It's my turn to go first. Okay. Listen was an episode that carried a lot of hype and a lot to live up to, and although I enjoyed it, it wasn't as good as I thought it would be. The acting, direction, and production was brilliant, that goes without saying, but the writing really wasn't. Don't get me wrong, the concept of this episode was clever, but it wasn't delivered well. The fact we never got any closure on if the monster was real, in the Doctor's head, or everyone's head, or not real at all made the story very weak, even if that was Moffat's intention, and parts of this seemed recycled from past stories. This story also made Danny's character less interesting, as the Doctor and Clara basically influenced his childhood and future, just like with Amy and Rory and River, which was disappointing as I wanted Danny to be a well-grounded character, but in this he was reduced to a plot point before we'd even met the guy. The story had some very standout and jaw-dropping scenes which had my eyes glued to the screen, but the ending with Clara influencing his theory and him returning to the barn was fine, but influencing his promise to be the Doctor seemed too much and made her character seem too overpowered, considering she'd already basically made all his victories. Overall, this was a difficult story because some parts I loved and some parts I didn't, and I think there were some standout creepy scenes, but they are the only reason why this story has any credibility, as the story was left weak and wide open with no closure. Listen was better than Into the Dalek, which was a 6.5 out of 10, but not as good as Robots of Sherwood, which was a 7.5 out of 10. So I'm going to have to go through the middle. I'm going to have to give it a 7.5 out of 10. Well, sorry, a 7 out of 10.
Well, a
decent... 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10. Okay? Okay. You've seen that on the screen now. 7 out of 10.
Numbers confuse me.
Yes. Yes. And that's not just me. Yes. I came into this episode with a childlike sense of excitement like my nephew did, and hoping for a scary and creepy episode. But what I feel I got instead was Moffat's usual writing style he's been using since 2010. Why Moffat found it necessary for the Doctor and Clara to influence Danny Pink's decision to become a soldier and change his name from Rupert to Danny was beyond me. Why couldn't Danny have just made those decisions himself? The monster in this episode, although I understood the concept of middle-of-the-night paranoia, things under your bed, and general fear of the dark that everyone gets, I failed to see the closure in this episode, and we were just left with unsure questions and no resolution. The scene with the younger Doctor in the barn was a shocking scene that I did not expect and had me jumping up and down, but I felt that this was overkill for Clara's character and gives her too much responsibility. She is not only responsible for every one of the Doctor's victories and triumphs, but is now responsible for why he is the Doctor in the first place, which makes her more important than she should be. All in all, I found the episode creepy, but I would have enjoyed the monster a lot more if I knew where the hell it came from. 5 out of 10.
You're sticking with a 5.
I am sticking with a 5.
Wow, that's
I'm afraid.
lower than Into the Dark.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's just that, yes, Listen, I thought, was it... again, can I just say, for the 4th time running, there has not been an awful episode in Doctor Who. There has not been an awful episode in Doctor Who. If I were to rank them... Listen,
in Series 8.
Yeah, if I were to rank them in Series 8, yes, Listen would be at the bottom. But it is in no way an awful episode. I still enjoyed it, and I would still continue to watch it if I got the series on box set, which I intend to do. So.
Well, that's a very interesting review, considering mine is 2 points higher than yours. But
yes.
Nevertheless.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm just a bit more critique than you.
Yeah, because you hate Moffat, that's why.
Yes, I absolutely despise Moffat. Now, do you blame me? But anyway, so then, guys, we will see you on Friday for our preview of Time Heist, which proves to be a Stephen Thompson story.
I'm not looking forward to it.
Neither am I. Just watch The Curse of the Black Spot and Journey to the Centre of the TARDIS.
Yeah, enough said.
Yeah, enough said. See you guys then.
Matthew, did you replace my disintegration gun with a banana? Maybe. Anyway, we hope you guys enjoyed our review of Listen. Yes, Listen. Don't know why we always say Listen with a whisper. It's completely unbeknown to me. Yes. But we hope you guys did like this review. Please do like this video. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. And please do comment in the section below what you guys think about Listen. And listen. Yes, and if you didn't like the atrocity that Moffat delivered this week on Doctor Who, please, we can go to his house and kill him. It's not too late to save Doctor Who.
Yeah, and if you actually respect Moffat for what he's done over the past year with the 50th and stuff, then comment below why you love Moffat. In fact, if you're in favour of him, comment #HateMoffat, and if you agree with me, comment #LoveMoffat, and we'll do a special count-up for our preview on Friday to see if you love Moffat or hate him.
Yes.
Should be interesting.
See you on Friday for our preview of Time Heist.
Why do these always end awkwardly? And why are you eating a banana?
I don't know, I like bananas!
You know.